new home at Devil's Peak in Epping, brewing the Hoppy wheat.
Okay, so for this recipe, we wanted to achieve a water profile of about 100 ppm of chloride and 50 ppm of sulfate. Steph will explain a little bit more about why we want to achieve these numbers in the interview later on. In order for us to achieve it, we added 2 grams of gypsum and 4.5 grams of calcium chloride. But if you check Brewer's Friend's water chemistry calculator, you can build your own profile there. Okay, so here's the grain bill for this recipe of 23 litres, and we added 2.79 kilograms of pale ale malt, 1.41 kilograms of wheat malt, 250 grams of Munich Light, 250 grams of flaked oats, and 50 grams of acidulated malt. And here we are doughing in. We're pouring the grain in very nice and slowly to the water and giving it a really good stir in, mixing up all the grains with the water. Coming on to the end of doughing in now, just making sure that every single grain is coated with the water there. We don't want any dough balls at this stage. Okay, so now we're just placing that top mash plate on top of the grains, and I push it down to the top of the grain bed and then just give it a little lift back up again. Okay, and then putting in the pipework there. Pop on the lid and pop back on the recirculation arm. And the mash schedule for this brew is nice and simple. It's a mash in at 65 degrees C for 60 minutes and a mash out at 75 degrees C for 10 minutes. So you guys brewing in a cooler box system will find this one really easy to achieve as well.
Hi, so we're here with Steph from Little Wolf at his new home at Devil's Peak in Epping. It's quite epic, eh? It's
super epic.
New premise. It's fantastic. But you haven't always been here, hey? So
no, I haven't. Yeah, so I started Little Wolf, I guess it's about three and a half years ago. So I was part of the Brewers Co-op in Woodstock. That's kind of where I started Little Wolf, although it was in the back of my mind for quite a while before that.
Yeah.
But the co-op kind of gave me a place to launch the brand, kind of try out some recipes, figure out the kind of my approach and that kind of thing. And yeah, it was also nice because it gave me some confidence to kind of get into the market, sold some beers, and kind of then once I realized that I could actually do this and kind of take it forward.
Yeah. So you moved from the co-op to your own premise in Comickey?
Yes. Yeah. So while I was at the co-op, I met a guy named Rainer who had Von B's Brewery, and yeah, he decided to get out of the brewing game. Unfortunate for him, but fortunate for me because he owned the premises which had a brewing license, so he rented it to me. And yeah, so then I moved into that premises almost 2 years ago to the day, actually. It was the 1st of March 2 years ago, yeah. So,
and now you're here. Now you're at...
And now, yeah, exactly. So now taking another step up. So from Brewers Co-op doing 100 litres at a time to Comickey doing 300 to 400 litres at a time, now doing 1,500 litres plus per batch. Yeah.
And you've just brewed an even bigger batch than...
Yeah, so the first 8,000 litre batch is currently in tank at the moment. Yeah.
I think we're going to get a taste out of the tank.
Yeah, we will.
Later on as well, yeah? Fantastic.
Definitely.
Yeah. That one, excited for that. And the beer we're brewing today is your Hoppy wheat.
It's my Hoppy wheat, formerly American wheat, but
almost said that actually.
Amero Hoppy wheat, yeah, so it's a Hoppy wheat. Yeah, so it's my flagship beer, absolutely love it. Every time I brew it, do a slight tweak to it, but it seems to get better and better every time. So yeah, when you smell it, super aromatic, just so mosaic hops all the way through, just gives you this really kind of punchy, fruity, guava, tropical character. Kind of the genesis with this beer was when I was at the co-op, I wanted to brew a beer that had a lot of the flavor and aroma of an IPA, but without the bitterness. A lot of people, when they think hoppy, they think bitter.
Yes.
And so I spent some time in Canada. I was in Vancouver for 3 years, and I really kind of fell in love with IPA there because they really, for the first time, got that kind of Northwest American hop character, just like smack you in the face.
Yeah.
But often they weren't session beers. Like 6-7% crazy bitter, but that aroma is so alluring that you keep on kind of put your nose back in and smell and taste.
Yeah, it's got a great aroma. I was actually surprised that it's just a single hop, because of the complex aromas that come off of it.
Yeah.
You would think there was more to it. I mean, Mosaic is obviously a fantastic hop.
And I mean that's also where the name of Mosaic comes from. So they call it Mosaic because it gives you this mosaic of fruit flavors.
Right.
So some people pick up guava, some people pick up gooseberry, some people pick up mango. It's this whole kind of. It's not just it's not a single kind of aroma hop.
No.
And then also, I think when I came back to South Africa, I realized a lot of IPAs and a lot of pale ales are very kind of malt forward, very caramel focused, which is not a flavor I really like in my hoppy beers. So no caramel malt in here at all.
You can see the color there. I mean, it's like lager almost.
Yeah, exactly. It's super pale.
Color, yeah.
But then to still give it some body and some mouthfeel, that's kind of where the wheat comes from. So it's got quite a bit of wheat, got a bit of oats in there, which give it this fullness, give it this kind of light graininess without any sweetness from the caramel malt. Just to kind of help get this nice kind of base and nice support for the hops. But this beer is all about the hops, basically.
And it is a wheat ale, but it's not a Weiss beer, right? It's not like a...
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, Weiss beer, people generally think of it's German Weiss beer, German Hefeweiss.
Yeah.
And they're all the fruit flavor and aroma and kind of the signature of beers from the yeast.
Yeah.
Whereas this is more of an American-style wheat beer, which is why I used to call it American wheat. So I call it wheat beer because it's got a large proportion of wheat in it.
Yes.
But apart from that, it's kind of like a pale ale, I guess. So moderate bitterness, loads of hoppiness. So again, kind of interesting when I'm at festivals and things, kind of when people say, "Oh, I really like Weiss beers. I'd like to try your wheat beer." I'm like, "Cool, you'll probably like it because it's still very fruity and things."
Yeah.
But all the fruit flavors from the hops rather than yeast.
Yeah.
But also, if I have people come to me saying, "Oh, I don't like Weiss beers," I'm like, "Well, do you like pale ales?" And I'm like, "Oh, this beer, you'll like this one too," because it kind of balances both of those quite nicely.
And in the recipe, you've got a big dry hop addition, which obviously comes through in the aroma and the taste. But there's also a first wort addition, which is quite I haven't seen it done that many times.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I've tweaked quite a lot in this recipe. I think so with the kind of the rise of these New England IPAs, I've kind of been doing a lot of reading about them and kind of seeing how people brew them, and a lot of those techniques have actually made it into this beer because it has got quite a lot of wheat, it's got quite a lot of oats, and it's very hop forward. It's almost like a New England pale ale. So it's using a lot of those hopping techniques. So first wort hopping, which gives you just quite a gentle, soft bitterness, does give you some aroma, some hop flavor rather than aroma. And then instead of there's no hops throughout the boil, and then there's a big whirlpool charge, again getting as much flavor and aroma out of the hops as possible, and then a big dry hop charge just towards the end of fermentation, so you still can maybe get some of those biotransformations in there. Unlike a New England IPA where you might kind of dry hop at the beginning of fermentation and at the end, I just kind of do one at the end. And then also, we'll probably talk about it a bit, but the water profile is also kind of swapped a little bit. So normally with a hoppy beer, you want to kind of accentuate the sulfates because that'll kind of give you that kind of crisp bitterness. But because this, again, I'm trying to give some maltiness without having to use caramel malt. So again, I've kind of switched that ratio around, which is similar to New England IPAs again, and kind of going for more of the chloride, which helps kind of accentuate the maltiness, give you a softer bitterness. But then the fact that we've got that huge dry hop addition and a big whirlpool addition, that kind of the hops are still, center stage.
And then tell me about your other, I'm going to say drinks, because it's not just all about beer with you, is it?
No.
Beverages, I should say.
Yeah, beverages, it's a horrible word, but it works, and I use it all the time.
So you've got a couple of other beverages in your range?
Yeah, so kind of the core range now that I've kind of done this move over to Devil's Peak, we've refined the core range a little bit, did the rebranding in December last year, so it's the Hoppy Wheat, is the beer, and then I've got a hibiscus cider, which is the flagship cider, so those are the two alcoholic drinks I've got at the moment. And then I've got a virgin cider, which is basically a dry hopped, non-alcoholic apple drink, and then my Cape Dry tonic. So it's a tonic water made purely with botanicals basically.
Wow.
Which gives it this, as one, actually out of all the recipes I've ever developed, the tonic has probably been the most difficult, just in terms of balancing all the flavors, making it something that tastes great by itself, but obviously needs to taste great with gin as well.
Yeah.
And that's gone through a lot of iterations, and it's been really kind of tricky to balance it nicely, but I'm very happy with where it is now. So those are the kind of 4 core drinks, and then I'm going to have 2, I haven't quite settled on the nomenclature yet, but it's 2 kind of explorer type series. So there's one which will be the botanical series, which will be in these 500 ml champagne bottles, which will be more kind of the barrel aged things, the sours, the very kind of high end, super elegant limited release.
Yeah.
And then there'll be another limited release range, which will be in 440 ml cans, which is kind of like the field note series. So kind of the whole brand is kind of centered around myself, as because I've trained as a botanist,
right.
So kind of myself as a scientific explorer. So it's a kind of that field note series, which will be more kind of generally clean beers, experimenting with botanicals and locally harvested ingredients and that kind of thing. So those will kind of be the 2 experimental seasonal series, and then I'm hoping to bring in another 1 or 2 beers or maybe another cider into that core series. And we'll see. I think it'll be kind of continuously evolving, continuously changing, kind of as my ideas and passions move around.
You have that flexibility now to...
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And then lastly, you mentioned you're getting some beers overseas as well in the UK. So is that going to be something long term? Is that the future plans?
At the moment, there's just we've got one kind of partnership. There's something in the UK which is similar to Legal Beers, which we're working with. So we're doing one batch for that, and we'll see how it goes in the future. I think, especially with the barrel aged beers and the sours, firstly there's a huge market for it overseas, so I think they would sell well. But it's also something that you don't have to be as worried about with travel, because they age fairly elegantly, so you don't have to be as worried about them. So I think there may be some scope for that, but we haven't settled on anything or decided.
In the UK, and that's very popular at the minute as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then also, I've actually been chatting to an importer in Dubai about the virgin cider. So obviously, there's no alcohol there, but they still want a nice, elegant drink. So we'll see. It's still very early days, but there might be some.
It's that non-alcoholic wine you get over there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, Steph. Thanks for sharing this recipe with us. It's quite a simple recipe to brew, so I hope some people get inspired to try it at home.
It's a very basic recipe. So I mean, it's very basic malt bill, single hop. I mean, it's really it's kind of showing you that you can use simple ingredients and just use them in a good way to kind of really accentuate the flavors that they give you, and you can make a fantastic beer.
It really works. I mean, I think it's a bit of a bold statement, but it's probably my favorite beer in South Africa, this one. So
thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
Cool.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Okay, so there's the mash finished, and we take off that recirculation arm. Remove the lid, and we're going to lift out the mash pipe from the kettle, and that'll allow the water to drip down through the grain bed into the kettle. And we have a first wort edition of hops here, which is 10.8 grams of mosaic. So to do that, we just lift up that mash pipe and sprinkle the hops into the kettle there. So moving on to the sparge now, and we're going to pour in the water, 75 degrees C water, over the top of that mash plate. Nice and slowly, we sparge about 1 litre of water at a time. So adding the next litre of water in, you can see we just pour it in very slowly, trying to cover every single part of that top plate. Okay, so coming on to the end of the sparge, we remove the mash pipe. And here the kettle is coming up to the boil now. And because it's got quite a bit of wheat in this recipe, you can see there's quite a bit of protein on the top there. So we just stir all that foam back into the kettle. And we've cleared it quite nicely now. So I'm just going to give the bottom of the kettle a bit of a scrape, just to make sure that any build-up on the bottom doesn't burn. And we're going to set the timer. So while that's boiling away, we took this opportunity to have a look around the brewery. And as Steph mentioned, he's moved into his new home at Devil's Peak, and this brewery in Epping is fantastic. So we had a nice look around. There's the old system that they used to use in Salt River there. And as promised, we did get to taste the first batch of Hoppy wheat that was brewed on the 8,000 litre system, straight from the tank. And I really love tasting beer straight from the tank, because there's something very special about it. That looks fantastic, Steph. How does it taste?
Yep, tastes pretty spot on.
Happy with that?
Very happy with that.
Okay, so back to the Grainfather now, and with 10 minutes to go, we added some Irish moss and some yeast nutrient, gave it a good stir in, gave the bottom plate a bit of a scrape again, and then with a couple minutes left to go, we did something a bit different. We ran boiling hot wort through the counterflow chiller in order to sanitize it, and when the boil finished, we kept that boiling hot wort recirculating through the counterflow chiller to drop the temperature down to 90 degrees C in order to add our first wort hop addition at temperature below 90 degrees C. So that was 35 grams of mosaic hops, and we added them to the kettle, and they got a 5-minute whirlpool using the new Grainfather whirlpool attachment for your drill. The reason we wanted to drop the wort down below 90 degrees C before adding the hops was just for a better aroma utilisation of the hops. We didn't really want any bitterness from the hops at this stage. We didn't run any cooling water through the counterflow chiller. At that time we literally ran the boiling hot wort through it, and the temperature dropped down to 90 degrees C within about 10 minutes, so this was quite sufficient, and obviously carried on sterilising the counterflow chiller. And our cold water temperatures in Cape Town are still not cold enough to get us down to the correct pitching temperatures using this counterflow chiller. So once it was done transferring, we moved the fermenter into the fridge until it had dropped to the correct pitching temperatures for our yeast. And we used a local liquid yeast company here in Cape Town called Plato Yeast, and they have a fantastic yeast for hoppy beers called the Hop Slayer, which is a derivative from the Vermont ale yeast strain. So if you're overseas, then you can get hold of the Vermont ale yeast instead. Here we are pitching our yeast, and in about 4 to 5 days time, when your active fermentation has slowed down, is almost coming to an end, then you want to add 92 grams of mosaic hops as a dry hop addition. And that is it. Thank you very much to Steph from Little Wolf for sharing his amazing hoppy wheat recipe with us. It really is a fantastic beer, so I hope this video has inspired you to try this one at home. And if you do, please share with us on social media the results. Until next time, thanks for watching.